Well, we've got a lot more to talk about from last night. The president's speech made history with its 1 hour, 48-minute runtime, and a lot happened during that time.
Let's just start seconds into his speech. Representative Al Green from Texas was removed from the chamber for a second year in a row. Take a look at this video after Trump declared that America was back to a standing ovation from Republicans. You can see Representative Green standing too and holding a sign that reads, "Black people aren't apes." Green was then escorted out and had this to say after leaving the chamber.
I wanted the president to understand that it is unacceptable for him to portray Michelle and Barack Obama as members of the primate family. I wanted him to experience somebody defying him up close, because apparently the people around him can find never reason, it seems, to explain to him that some of the things that he's doing are unacceptable. And that's what I did.
Now, it was the first of several Democratic protests against the president last night. And while there were fewer outbursts from their side of the aisle, some still broke through.
One of the most notable happened when Trump asked members of Congress to stand if they supported the statement, quote, "The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens." Democrats did not stand, which led the president to begin admonishing that side of the room, and this back and forth with Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar.
You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
That exchange garnered some attention online. Hassan Piker applauded Omar and Rashida Tlaib sitting next to her, writing on X, "Ilhan and Rashida, my queens, I will ride for you into battle." Oh boy, but Congressman Randy Fine summed up many of the reactions from conservatives online, addressing Omar directly in his own post, saying, quote, "Well, you should be deported."
But what may have been most striking, the protests from the Democrats, was just how many of their seats were actually empty. Some simply boycotted the speech altogether, and others counter-programmed the speech, addressing the crowd outside the Capitol at the so-called People's State of the Union. Senator Chris Murphy was among those who skipped Trump's speech in favor of the rally outside and said this.
I am not at the State of the Union speech tonight because Donald Trump is making a mockery of this great institution, and he doesn't deserve an audience. I'm not at the State of the Union speech tonight because you're not going to hear about the State of the Union. You are going to hear lie after lie. You are going to hear attack after attack. You are going to see grandstanding. The true State of the Union is this. This union is in crisis right now.
Murphy's Senate colleague, Mark Warner, echoed his message in a post on X, writing, "Walked out of the State of the Union because I couldn't sit through hours of Trump's lies. Americans know the truth. He's spiking prices and wrecking our economy. We're a better country than this."
And then there was the official Democratic response this year coming from newly elected Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger. Here's a taste of her just 13-minute rebuttal.
In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. Costs are too high in housing, healthcare, energy, and childcare. And I know these same conversations are being had all across this country. Because since this president took office last year, his reckless trade policies have forced American families to pay more than $1,700 each in tariff costs.
Spanberger's focus on affordability didn't sit well with some Republicans who pointed out that her party wants to raise taxes in her state. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn made that point in a post on X, writing, "Abigail Spanberger's the last person who should be talking about affordability. She forget that her fellow Democrats in Virginia just introduced a laundry list of new tax hikes, including a dry cleaning tax, a home repair tax, a dog walking tax, and a gun tax." Ugh, tax.
Your favorite word, tax.
Ugh.
Well, we can start there with tax. Trump said a lot last night, and it sounded good, but like everyone's alluding to, a lot of it was extremely over-exaggerated or just flat-out lies. We could start with the tax or the tariff. He said they're paid for by foreign countries. Now, we know that's not true. They're paid for by American importers, and the costs have been passed off. Right, so we can start there. We talked about immigration. He said we're deporting illegal alien criminals from our country at record numbers. That's not true. The numbers actually show that the people, most of the majority that have been deported, don't have any criminal record. Healthcare.
But some do.
Yeah, some do. But he said record numbers, and he keeps using these words: criminal, rapist. These are what we hear him say over and over again from the campaign trail to his first year in office. And it's exaggerated.
Okay, so that's the winning Democratic message. They're not all rapists.
No, I'm starting
Let them
there.
stay.
No, I'm starting there. I'm telling you why I'm starting and why people didn't stand up on the other side of the aisle. Because if you stand up and oblige him, if you stand up and oblige him in that moment, it's making it agree that basically his policies are what you accept. When most of the country doesn't like the way that he's implementing ICE and the policies, they agree that immigration could be handled better, but don't like the way that Trump's handling it. We've seen that in many polls. Let me finish. So healthcare. He took the time out of his schedule and a lot of chunk of the State of the Union to talk about health care when Republicans know this is a losing issue for them. Out of all the issues, most people believe that Democrats will handle health care better. Polls have shown that. Most recently, yesterday, one came out that we kept referencing on News Nation. So there's a rise in health care coverage costs because we didn't do anything about it last year. Republicans didn't agree to any agreement with Democrats when the government was closed, and so people are actually paying more for health care. He talks about drug prices dropping 300%. That's not a real number. 100% would be $0. And so the fact that he keeps saying 300, 500%, that's just untrue. They're not $0. And
they pay you for health care.
The cost of cancer drugs and some of the biggest insulin are still really high. They haven't changed at all and won't likely change, according to experts, from this prescription drug agreement that he came up with. It also has the chance of just raising other countries' costs. Yes, insulin and cancer medicines are still extremely high. They haven't changed at all.
They haven't changed yet, but we're in the process.
But also, a lot of people who reviewed this said, well, we want us to be paying the same amount as other countries. So what that might look like is other countries' prices rising to match ours, as opposed to ours lowering. So he might not be positively affecting anybody. And then the last thing is that he said, quote, we will always protect Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. And that's just a lie because they cut $1 trillion for the next 10 years from the Medicaid budget to protect people because of the big, beautiful bill. So he's making stuff up. But he's saying stuff that's just untrue.
Yeah,
so that's not the State of the Union.
Whatever they want to hear so that they don't vote against us, and then we'll cut their Medicare and their Social Security.
So the largest voting bloc are the same people that you want to take away pensions for.
Misleading them and then taking away their benefits.
Right, so to me that doesn't all make up a good State of the Union. If it sounds good but it's not actually true, that's my biggest problem about this thing because most of it was untrue.
I don't know that most of it was untrue. I actually noticed fewer times where he said something where I said, well, that's just not right, probably than any other speech he's ever given.
Because he spent most of it handing out awards like the Academy Awards because he knew that he can't go off of his record. It doesn't make sense. It's not affecting us in the way that he promised.
He faces considerable Democratic opposition to achieving anything, including to getting rid of illegal immigrants. His top
You have a Republican Congress.
Thing he was installed to do, and the states are fighting him, and that's why you're having all these confrontations. So it is hard to do, but the Democrats didn't stand for immigration enforcement at all, and that's going to come back to hurt them.
Tom Homan has pulled a majority of the ICE agents out of Minnesota, and from what I understand through extensive reading is that no policies have changed on the local law enforcement's part with their interaction with federal government in regards to...
the local people in blue states aren't going to help, so
no, they said the policy remains the same. You can come to federal prison facilities and collect migrants. You have a 2-week span.
Well, that's not what
nothing has changed.
What the mayor of Minneapolis says, but
well, the governor who oversees the entire state said that's the same thing that's happening.
He says a lot of fuddy-duddy things. Up next, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett reportedly called Capitol Police on a CNN reporter. Don't go anywhere.